Hello, my name is Angela Berry. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran and a mortgage loan originator here at Merchants Home Lending. Today, we're going to be talking about getting buyers into the market, moving from hesitation into action. So, the market hasn't eliminated demand, it's created hesitation and it's changed how we guide people. So, I'm going to walk you through some financial strategies that will help your clients feel confident enough to actually move forward. So global events actually are tied to mortgage interest rates, or mortgage interest rates rather, are tied to global events. When there's instability in the market, money moves into bonds, which can push rates down. But at the same time, inflation pressures, can push rates up. So that's what we're seeing here happening today. Nobody could see the events, of the first weekend in March come into play. We don't have a crystal ball, but the moment that there's instability in the market, the money moves into the mortgage-backed security bonds, which pushes rates down. But at the same time, we're experiencing inflation, which causes rates to go up. So today's buyer is frozen, not gone. So our buyers haven't disappeared. They're still out there, but they're stuck. They're caught between rates feeling like they're too high, and if I lock, what if I miss a better rate, etc. So our job as mortgage professionals is to educate our buyers, ask them, get that pre-qualification conversation going. What is your target home? What is your target payment? How long do you plan to stay in the house? Do you see any jobs moving forward? Can you essentially afford this house? If all these answers are yes, then now is the time to buy, period. The you know are because the buyers are out there and they're just caught in the midst of, what if I make a bad decision? So this creates decision paralysis, and that hesitation is what's killing deals, not the lack of interest itself. So the agent's new role in this market today, that's where the partnership comes between the mortgage loan originator and the buyers and sellers agents. It's our job to educate our prospective clients, right? So we're no longer just opening doors, we're guiding these financial decisions. And it's our job to translate financing into something simple to help buyers answer one key question is, can they afford the payment today? The difference between a buyer who walks away and the one who moves forward comes down to how the payment is structured. So, financing is the lever that unlocks action. So, when we reduce the initial payment shock and give them clarity, hesitation, starts to disappear. We can do that by providing one tool, such as the temporary rate buy down. There's a temporary rate buy down lowers the buyer's rates for the first few years, which creates more of a comfortable entry point into what their real mortgage payment is going to be. It's designed to ease them in, lower payments up front, and then gradually stepping up as they build equity or refinance, the refinancing opportunity opens. The temporary rate buy downs can be either a 1% temporary reduction, a 2-1 temporary buy down where the rate is reduced 2% for the first year and then 1% this year two, or a 3-2-1 where the rate is reduced 3% for year one, 2% for year two, and so on. This table here represents an example of a $500,000 purchase with an interest rate of 5.49%. If we look at the middle section, the 2-1 buy down, the cost here is $10,785 that the seller or builder or agent must pay, no combination of funds, in order for the buyer to take advantage of a 2% temporary reduction for year one. How this works is that the money, this $10,785 is set aside into a subsidy account. It's different than the escrow account for taxes insurance. It has its own separate account. So what happens is that the seller pays this money, $10,785. The servicing has been set up. Buyer makes their first month payment. They're paying this 3.49% interest rate, and $593 is reduced from the subsidy account. Month two, again, they make their payment, an additional $593. This subtraction of money out of the subsidy account occurs until there's no money left. But let's fast forward, and now we're in year two, and the buyer is now paying this 4.49%, and the current market rate, let's just pretend, already is at 4.5%. So if we're in month 13 and the buyer has now made one payment out of, at a 4.49%, but they're going to refinance out of this temporary rate reduction into a firm fixed 30-year mortgage, they're essentially getting a credit. It's a principal reduction from the payoff of like $3,300 because that's what's remaining in their subsidy account. So not only do they automatically have an equity position, it subtracts and lowers the overall payoff because of the principal reduction. So this money that if your buyer is engaged and has a temporary rate reduction, it's important to note that those funds never disappear. It's their money, and if they refinance out of the temporary rate reduction prior to those funds being exhausted, it will become a principal reduction and it's never lost. So buy downs come in seller paid and lender paid and buyer paid. So the seller paid buy down in today's market, they're one of the most powerful tools that you have because instead of cutting price, you're using concessions to lower the buyer's monthly payment, which often has a bigger psychological impact, than anything else because the sellers maintain the equity in their house, they get the asking price that they want, and they also are providing the buyer with a buy down so that they can ease into the payments. So this often has a much, like I said, psychological impact because this positions, as a marketing strategy, not as a discount. So that's important to note. So while the sellers are maintaining equity in the house, they are also providing this credit to the buyer. Lender paid buy downs, on the other hand, are pretty unique in that they're only a 1% temporary reduction. So this is where your lender relationships really matter because if the lender can cover the buy down through credits or through the program itself, it reduces the buyer's upfront cost and simplifies the deal. Lender paid buy downs, it's important, are more commonly seen in states where the refinance costs are not that high. So, example, Texas has moderately high refinance fees, whereas the state of California has very, very low refinance costs. So, it's just a matter of is it cost beneficial for the buyer to take advantage of a 1.0 temporary rate buy down when they know they're going to be refinancing 12 months later. Buyer paid buy downs are the permanent rate buy downs. So they can utilize the funds directly from the seller and permanently buy the interest rate down. So the question to ask here is how long are you planning to keep this loan? So if the buyer plans to stay in the house long term, paying a lump sum up front to buy the rate down so you don't have to worry about refinancing the loan ever again may be for them. Or if we take and do the math to determine the cost of the buy down divided by the savings, the reduction in the principal and interest based upon the no point rate versus the rate reduction, we can determine how long will it actually take to break even so that the buyer knows, okay, well, maybe it takes 36 months in order to start actually saving the recoup the cost that they've already paid into the loan. So that's important to know when we have permanent buy downs. Is it a best use case of money, or should that buyer consider using that money elsewhere to invest to get a greater return? Adjustable rate mortgages sometimes have a negative connotation to them, especially prior to the crash in 2008. So the adjustable rate mortgages now are becoming more and more popular because they have interest rates that are around a half a percent better than the traditional 30-year fixed mortgage. So they offer lower interest rates. They're predictable. They have built in caps and adjustments that are clearly identified. So, if we take, for example, the VA or a 5/1 adjustable rate mortgage, the rate would be locked for 5 years, and then it would begin to adjust up to or down to 1% um, one time per year after that 60th payment has been made. So they are predictable. They have set caps. There's designated adjustment periods. The terms of the adjustable rate mortgages are more clearly defined today, which makes them a more suitable option if someone is looking to be in the home short term, if they're going to be within the house, 5 to 10 years, or whenever that adjustment expires. Maybe they're moving cross country, maybe, whatever the situation may be. If they're looking to be in the home short term or to pay off the loan in a um, period, pay off the loan, then an adjustable rate mortgage may be for them. So stop watching rates, start building wealth. So the biggest cost of waiting isn't the rate, it's what the buyers miss out on. So they lose equity because prices keep rising, and when rates drop, the competition increases. So you can always refinance a rate, but you can't go back and buy at yesterday's price. So the cost of waiting, you're going to lose big time because that house is no longer going to be there. The competition's going to eat it up because if people can afford the house, they can afford the payment, you can always refinance later. So it's our job as mortgage professionals. At the end of the day, the mortgage professionals who win are the ones who educate better. So when you use tools like the buy downs and the concessions and the arms strategically, you create clarity, and that clarity creates confidence, and confidence buyers take action. So thank you for joining me today. If you have further questions about temporary rate reductions or adjustable rate mortgages, please feel free to reach out. My direct number is 512 738 8593. Thank you.